Salmonana, welcome to Daily Thetha. Igama lami Kini Shandu, and namhlanje sinolunye futhi uhlelo sikuhlalele nalo esizokwazi ukuthi sikufundise sakhane ngalo, but indaba ezimnandi le weekend esibuya ngakuyona ibipacked kakhulu. Ama team ebhola amaningi adlale kahle, eyami team ayidlala kahle uSuthu udliwe ngo 2-1 draw Orlando Pirates. It's fine, but sizazama ukuthi sivike izembe. But if you look at the Commonwealth Games, South Africa did so 37 medals in total. We scoreboard sitting at number 6. That's good. Big up to Mzansi. But namhlanje sikhuluma about African currency. That's what we're going to be zooming in and find out. Since 2003, the ndaba ibiloku discuss ukuthi in Africa we need one currency esingakwazi sisebenzise. Lapho Ramaphosa president last month was telling ukuthi it can be done by 2021. What does that mean to you njengomuntu omusha sekhaya? Do you understand the conversation esikhuluma ngayo njengamanje? Is it something oyi priority yakho njengamanje that you think it can unite Africa, can make trading linings in Africa ibe ngonywana, or it's one of those things that you think ukuthi ayibothareshi kangako? Asizombono wakho ukuthi uthini about ukuhlela namhlanje.
Dumelang ka amagela nna ke nna Nicolette wa ga Mashile ngwana wa Bush Patrick Mapula neng atela ka matsogo ya ke sesi fortune wa ga Madala. As Kini's already alluded, we had a very jam-packed weekend. May Mama Winnie rest in peace, finally. And we do hope that that airport that is in Cape Town will become the Winnie Madikizela Mandela International Airport. But African currency, can Africa as a continent finally have one currency? South Africa, we have body countries of Botswana, Kenya, that money. And that's what we're going to be talking about Daily Thetha. Question when as Moswana, does it even bother you? Do you actually care that we're going to get one currency in Africa? Or do you just still live your life thinking, as long as it does not really matter to me?
Give us a call on 01133911315. Find out zonke inkundla zokuxhumana. The hashtag is Daily Thetha. But njengamanje asizwe the Ghanaian president, Nana Addo, says ukuthi about this African currency umbono wakhe.
It is obvious that the aid pass will not take Africa to where it has to be. We do not want to be a scar on anybody's conscience. We do not want to be pitted. We do not want to be either pawns or victims. And we certainly do not want headline writers to continue to compete to find the most lurid adjectives to describe our continent and its peoples. Africa no longer wants to be the deficit place, to go to find the footage to illustrate famine stories. We no longer want to offer the justification for those who want to be rude and abusive about Africa and her peoples. It is time to build our economies that are not dependent on charity and handouts. Ours is a rich continent, has the world's second fastest economic growth rates, the world's fastest growing region for foreign direct investment, and in possession of nearly 30% of the Earth's remaining mineral resources. And yet, the masses of the African peoples remain poor. And we have to work to establish peace all over our great continent, a Pax Africana that has turned its back on terrorism, conflict, and instability. This new generation of African leaders should help bring prosperity and dignity to our continent and its long-suffering peoples. We do want to, and we shall work to take Africa to where it deserves to be, as a prosperous and dynamic member of the world community. We need to, and we shall move Africa beyond aid. Thank you very much for your attention, and may God bless Mother Africa.
As Likwele President Ghana Ntate Nana Addo, Africa, we actually owe it to Africa to unite. And question will one currency, will one monetary union be able to unite Africa? But for now, let's welcome our studio audience.
Let me come on this side. I do have Thetha Mokoena, who's a student, trying to find out about this African currency. And is it something that a priority yet that we should be discussing, or it's not really matter that much, Thetha? What's your comment about that?
I think it's definitely something that we as the youth should care about.
Yeah.
because many of us haven't traveled a lot, don't know how to trade, don't know how to do all of those things. And one of the biggest reasons is that there's these blocks on us to get to the next country. Like getting to Lesotho is difficult. You need a passport. You need all of these things. Getting to a country that doesn't use the rand is much more difficult because it slows you down in terms of purchasing power, in terms of sort of those other things. And that is true for individuals, and that is even worse for businesses, right? Trading, because when they trade, there's blocks on them because we have different currencies, we have different countries, we have different laws, and all such things. So yeah.
One of the comments that come about this African currency is that it can unite us. Like you were saying, Uti, traveling to any country, there's so much blocks that you need to go through as a traveler in peace. Do you think this one currency can unite us?
I think it can, because once you have one currency, you need to have policy sort of continuity and sort of harmony, right? And that sort of gives you makes it makes it impossible for you to want to have these sort of blocks, because then you must open up for trade, you must open up for individuals, and I think it's one way to sort of unite us, because then you're free to travel, you're free to engage, but more so it makes it easier for you to trade if you are sort of part.
Thank you very much, Tato. What we're gonna do, we're gonna now lapha culture as well. Just season nje umbono wamntawasha uthini, but njengamanje let's go to your side, Nicolette.
Kini, we've got almost, I think, just over 32 currencies. So more Africa right now. We know countries that are in the Francophone are using one currency. There's 8 of them. We know that ECOWAS has failed at getting one currency for those kind of countries. So the question is, even if we were to create one currency, which currency should it be? Should it be the same currencies or one of the ones that we already currently have, or should it be a totally new currency? Mama, should we have, which currency should we be using?
Ke nna itumeleng le
Ke
nna itumeleng le oka and nna ke bona ranta e le right.
Okay, why the rand?
Ke bona e tlotlisa peace mo di countries tsa rona kaofela. We have to be equal. And then ha re ya go Lesotho ra sokola ka dinako tsohle ra sokola. And then ha re le Lesotho we have to change. Ha re tla ka mo, if ever o Lesotho o tshwanetse o tla ka mo, o tshwanetse o exchange tšhelete and it difficult.
Mara mama, when out to Lesotho, don't you think also SADC, we always think about ourselves only? Because if we know about Africa, there's a whole Central Africa, there's a whole Western Africa, there's a whole Eastern Africa. Mafasi ao batla dumela go berekisa ranta.
Nna ke bona hore ba tshwanetse ba dumela, obvious.
Yeah.
Because irifa is most of the time re ra benefit haholo.
Okay, it's very interesting. And perhaps maybe what we also need to look at is the issue of free trade, Tabaya free trade, but also what Tato's already alluded to, the fact that you can't go to another African country without a passport. It just becomes a lot of work.
It becomes umsebenzi I have Matlodi next to me from Botswana as well. Experience yakhe ngifuna ukuzwa again ukuthi yini le enkinga kangaka, especially going to another country, that you think this one currency will solve it. Matlodi.
Okay, ke Matlodi from Botswana, ke re dumelang bagolo. Okay, yaka rona re berekisa pula. Go nna boima for rona le rona ha tshwantse re tle mo South Africa. I kere as re tshwe gore re batla unionism, re batla go nne le kagiso. Gore e tla e change-iwe go nne gore e tle e change-iwe e tlo dira gore ka ofela ga rona re nne le kagiso le lerato le kutlelano mmogo a kere gore go se kana di kgogagogano a kere gore everybody o batlang gore a tsamaye a ye country engwe go be botoka for ene gore a kgone go tsamaya a kere so re ka amogela re ka itumelela gore go nne yalo.
For umuntu ongakaza travel as well, how difficult is to move from another country uya kwelinye izwe, and the indlela ukuthi manje you need to exchange i-dollar or i-rand or ipula or whatever currency osuke isebenzisa, kunzima kangakanani i-experience yakhona okwaba nayo wena?
Go nna thata ka gore kana go ngwe o kore gore ba go sokodisa gore o tshwantse convert tšhelete eo go nna boima gone go tšhentšwa tšhelete eo ya teng. Yaanong gantsi o kore o tshwere tšhelete ntsi ya pula o batla go reka something o tshwantse o simolole pele o lo i-change. So experiment eo ke yona fela e re fang difficulties, so re ka itumela thata gore go nne le
one currency
gore re bophelo ba rona bo nne botoka thata.
Okay, sekuzwa kahle. And now ekhasi ngiyazithuba lokuthi usifonele as well usitshele ukuthi ucabanga about this is 011339 089110391315, talking about African currency. Yona ipegmele sisebenzisa, and how can this unite Tinanje sonke kwi continent of Africa? Someone say break in, siyabuya after this. Welcome back to Daily Thetha, sikhuluma about African currency. President Ramaphosa uthuma mina last month usitshelile ukuthi ngokubona kwakhe this can happen in 2021, but we want to find out from a youth economist as well ukuthi is this possible now, or it's just a good conversation that we might have, but when it comes to implementing it, it's a different story altogether. We have Lukuduzu Gonsele, or economist, as well as Tato Mukwena, a vet politics student. Guys, welcome to Daily Thetha.
Thank you for having us.
Anqale kuwena Luzuko, because sesikhuluma na Thato, so ngicabanga ukuthi sinikeze ithuba kancane. Just a quick one. Guys, it looked good on paper. Everybody's talking about it. Abanye bathi they are for it. But is it possible for us to implement this come 2021?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is possible.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of benefits that come with it as well. What it means is that now we have like one African market, one huge African market, which will attract foreign direct investments, which is inward investment, right? So what happens now, it boosts the level of competitiveness and efficiency with regards to like products and services provided in the African market, this one big market. So what it means now, the market becomes like a perfect competition, homogeneous, right? There's a lot of buyers, there's a lot of sellers as well, right? So what it means now is that the prices will drop eventually, right? The prices will drop eventually because there's like a lot of competitors, there's a lot of buyers as well.
But
right?
it's a very good conversation that we're having right now, but I think it's very broad. Let's look at someone from Elokshine, Soweto, Emlazgwa, Mashu, Soshanguve as well. What does this mean to that person?
For instance, let's just say that Montobi Mlazi, the person from Mlazi who Uchala Mavich or Uchala Mazamban, you know what I mean? So what it means is that now it's possible for him to actually interact or get into business, right? There's a market that might be open, right? With regards to like your exports, right? That person from Kamashu, Gubowane Plus, Gubowane Plus and Mover, Uyachala, Magachala Mover, okay, there's like some form of platform, right, allowed to actually trade. You know what I mean? So with that being said, you know, it gives people the edge, right?
So wait, what you're essentially saying, nna ke duleng mo South Africa, ke chala the vegetables, ke ka kgona go le rekisela mo duleng ko Kenya. Is that what it means?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
So what I was actually trying to say, because I spoke about homogeneous products, right?
Yes.
So let's just say for instance, there's 5 of us. There's 5 of us in the streets, and 5 of us in the streets. We're selling tomatoes, right? Then we're selling tomatoes. It's more than one seller. There's like three buyers. Those 3 buyers can choose where and where not to buy, right? So let's just say that, for instance, he charges 25 rand, I charge 20 rand, you charge 15, he charges 10, you know. Person A will go to the person that charges the least.
But Luzuko, I can still do that right now. What does having one currency help? I'm trying to understand, and I think even at home, what we are trying to get, when we now have this one currency, how does that help me, the everyday person? Because right now, I still have a choice. If you go to small streets, I can buy from whichever tenderpreneur, what do you call them? Vendor. Hey, it's a whore.
Not a vendor, but we're talking about
Yes.
street vendor.
From the street vendor. I can choose whichever one according to price, right? So when now, Tato, perhaps maybe you can jump in, when now we've got this one currency, how does it help me as Nicolette?
So I think to add on to what he's saying is that, so if sort of the market is bigger, right, it opens up for more people, right?
Okay.
And because when more people are involved, some people make it cheaper themselves. So like we'll find out maybe that cheapest 10 rand is actually not the cheapest price, right? It might be even less for someone else. You know, that it opens up the options, and then it forces him to lower his price.
Oh,
right?
so it makes it more competitive.
Yes.
All right.
And forces myself and you to lower your price, because now the beginning price is much lower than we are charging.
Yes.
Right. And what that does is, is that one, it forces us to modernize our system so that we are cheap. Otherwise, we run out of business. Number one, but two, it makes everything more accessible to the buyer itself, right? So what you have is the people who are producing the crops are advancing more, are making the systems more modern.
So can a country like South Africa not be able to do that right now without this one currency?
I think that there's limitations, right?
Okay.
And the limitations are based on the fact that on the amount of buyers, right? In that we don't have enough buyers, we don't have enough people buying from us. We don't have enough people, who have the buying power. But also we don't have the complete expertise, right? South Africa should be eating from the Free State. That's just one piece of big arable land. But the rest of Africa is mostly on farming, right? So there's a lot more expertise to learn from the rest of the continent to begin with, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Lusuka, let me come to you. Let's look at the business side of things. Amanda Manning, they would like to do business with different countries. But let's come, if we have this one currency, yini umehluko ozoyenza or okuhle ongase ukwenze from a business point of view?
Business point of view. Let's just say that, for instance, because right now is not we focused on trade. We're focused on trade. There's company A and there's company B. Company B is based in, let me just say it's based in Nigeria, Kenya, and company A is based in South Africa. So now there's like a reduction with regards to like costs for like firms. Firms are saving a lot of money because now let's just say that, for instance, I need 10 rand to actually buy something that will cost me 10 rand. You know what I mean? Just because now the currency in another country is strong as compared to South Africa.
Oh, the exchange
right?
rate.
The exchange rate.
Okay.
Yeah. So what it means now is that you avoid a lot of problems as well. There's something that we call imported inflation, right? So what happens with imported inflation is to say that, for instance, the price of exports, right? So the price of imports are very high. So what happens now, the imports become raw materials to your business. So with that being said, the output of your product and the business becomes or leads to general increase in prices, which is basically inflation.
Because of the
right?
import cost.
Yeah, because of the import costs, right?
I think for also my business abancane as well, bazoyijabulela that, and they will support it as well. And also want to find out from our audience about the conversation
Yeah, I think maybe we can speak to Mama. Mama, what does this one currency actually mean?
Like because of like travel to another country since so I travel like Zimbabwe and I could never understand 10 rand Zimbabwe ke bokae ka 100 rand it's what you've got like I don't know online if you want something outside sonse ke patale ka chelta ka mon like it's work ke bokae and nna ke tseba fela di rand. So it will be easy for enough if we go for less the rand. So get to if you reka online, you have 50 rand, we should do 50 rand.
You know what, Nicolette, obviously people from Sadek, Basil says they supported the rand because you are about used to it. But we don't know about that. Let's go to Kuku and force for us finding out good Utina about this because she's a tourism student. Kuku, welcome to Thetha.
Kuku.
Kuku.
Hello, Mzansi.
Sikon Janwen.
Ngiyaphila. Okay, mina opinion yami ukuthi I do agree ukuthi currency everyone in Africa. The reason being is because of when you go regionally, let's say for example we are going to we are going to Zimbabwe or Mashile on the studio, or you are going to Namibia. People from international challenges when they land to South Africa, when they buy forex or something where they have to exchange their currency. And then if a Puma aya Zimbabwe, they have to exchange. And then if a Puma Kenya again, and they still have to make a purchases, they still also have to change the currency to the currency to the local currency in your country. So I think that one currency, it becomes easier for everybody to trade. And when it comes to choosing a currency, I wouldn't say this is to choose a rand per se. We should just take to Africa, which is the one that is the strongest, so that you can be able to vouch for the one as strong. Which must trade and international, like US dollars and everything.
Okay.
In a money currency, and then you can be able to see income.
Okay. Siyabonga kakhulu Kuku bena suka lohle sisine. Thank you, Sebo.
Thetha, perhaps you can comment on that.
I can't move on.
Oriana, she believes it will help with trade, especially in the regional areas. But also she doesn't believe the rand. We must look at the strongest currency in Africa.
So the first thing that I want to say is to draw a distinction between the one currency and free trade, right?
Yes,
So I
yes.
think free trade must precede the one currency. It must
Yes.
come before,
Yes.
right? So we must have free trade in Africa as of yesterday, simply because I think it's strange that, you know, people in Botswana don't know anything about dimbatata, for example, that are made in the KZN, and I think it's strange. You know, there should be free trade, that we should be allowed to trade with one another, right? And that is a precursor to one currency, right? And we must be aware of what one currency solves. One currency doesn't solve our sort of developmental problems.
It doesn't.
Right? What it does solve is sort of the idea that it does give us a policy uniformity in the continent, and enforces fiscal discipline across the continent. What does that mean?
Ngenxa isikhathi Thato sobe siqhubeke ezola sameni sothengisa masibuya so just to wrap up your opinion about this sameni se breaking table after this.
According to my own opinion, mina ngicabanga ukuthi iAfrica ingaba necurrency one, but kumanye ama countries lawa sa developer azobo affecteka somehow, but amanye aso developekile angakwazi ukuthi mhlambe angakwazi ukuqhubekela phambili ngedevelopment. Okay?
No, I don't think it's a good thing. Though, yeah, it can have advantages, but yeah, for me, I don't think so.
The continent would come together as one.
It would be a good thing, but I don't think that as an Africans, we are ready for that.
South African rand is the lowest right now. So us adding on to that is in a whole kahle.
It would develop Africa at a quicker rate, meaning that the power that the rand and the pula would have would bring the other countries on board for us to have a better standing to the rest of the world.
The thing is, in Africa, if we are united, you can do a lot. But the thing is, again, we are not united.
Ama country lawa stable azoshakeka due to angithi manje lawa amanye ama country nawo samele ukuthi adevelop azofika kule level amanye la ama countries awa developile.
Countries like South Africa, obviously, and Botswana, because they have like a bigger currency, they would be affected in terms of goods and services and imports and exports, because countries like Zimbabwe and other non-developed countries, they don't have goods and services that we have.
I think it's going to add on to what we have already.
I guess it would have to be properly planned security and proper security would have to be set ahead of that.
Wonke umuntu uzoba ne-access anywhere la ufuna ukuya khona uzokwazi ukuthi uyazi ukuthi i-rate yakhona izobe the same nale country le obuya kuyo. So as i-rate izobe the same uzokwazi nokuthi u-export maybe izinto ey'fana nama-drugs. So uzoba ne-access yokuthi ufike nama-drugs to a different country whereby yabo lapho i-corruption increase.
Welcome back to Daily Thetha. This one African currency, will it actually work in Africa? Who does it actually benefit? Because sometimes benefit and can they actually paint a picture to say on the this one currency benefit? Carrying on with the conversation and getting to understand the terms of operation of this one currently is Dr. Steve Koch, who is the head and professor of economics at the University of Pretoria. And then we also have Wisdom Mfune, who is a PhD student, but you are from Malawi. Yes. Welcome to Daily Thetha.
Thank you.
Dr. Koch, let's jump straight into this conversation. Now, you know, the idea of one currency sounds absolutely amazing. And we talk about how Africa will finally rise and Africa will become this powerhouse that it is as a continent. But then we look at Africa and we look at, ECOWAS has failed at this one currency. We've got 8 African countries right now that are literally working with a French currency. Is it even possible for over 50 states to have one currency?
Anything's possible, but I don't know that it's something that would happen very quickly. Even if we look at the euro, I mean, they started in the mid-'80s having discussions. They agreed to measure sort of all their books in the euro in 1999, and the currency itself didn't start until 2001.
Yes.
And those are countries that trade together quite a bit and did it even at the time. Africa actually trades much more with Europe and North America and Asia than it does amongst itself. So, you know, in some sense, the premise behind the euro doesn't match the premise behind whatever the African currency is going to be called. So I think there are a lot of things that need to happen. Right? Earlier was mentioned a free trade area. There needs to be centralization of policies. But this is also a bit of a concern, I think, for many African countries, right? So would South Africa want to give up its right to control the currency?
Yes.
I think that's a tough question, right? Would any other country? So, you know, we've seen what's happened to the euro area, right? We've had lots of troubles with, you know, the UK wasn't exactly in the euro directly, but they still left the common area, partly because of lack of control over fiscal and related policies. So it's not something that I think is going to happen as quickly as we'd like. It's possible, but I think it requires a lot of things to happen.
Okay.
Wisdom, let me come to you, Mfetu. And some people are very much skeptical about this, and I don't know why. As someone who's from Malawi, why do you think some countries are very much skeptical of this one African currency?
Well, the way I see it basically is that, I mean, it's kind of funny because it's all kind of unfolding in a time when, for example, if you look at the United States of America and in what's happening in Europe with the Brexit, all these countries are tending to be kind of exiting this regional integration and cooperation movements. And yet here in Africa, we are trying to get into it. And I mean, all these kind of movements in America with the building of the war and of the American border and the Brexit. These are all kind of nationalist movements. And yet we know that nationalist movements were done in the 1960s when African countries were getting their independence. And yet what's happening in Africa is that we seem to be going back to those nationalist movements. So how do we consider those kind of issues? But going to your question, I think for example, I mean, if I'm a Malawian, and I can say right now that it's the issue is that it's the funds. The funds are very expensive. So if for example, like let's say you have a family of 4, I mean, you have to have, for example, 10,000 Rand in your account just for you to renew a visa. So those are some of the issues that you encounter.
So sorry, Kini. So what we're basically saying is we're going back to the conversation that Thato then mentioned to say before, and I think, and Dr. Koch has just mentioned, before we can even look at this one currency conversation, let's deal with the free trade issues. Let's deal with free borders across Africa. Is that what we are moving towards?
Yes, most definitely, I agree. However, you also have to note that Europe, it wasn't just something that happened overnight. It took years and years. And I mean, the idea here is that African countries are going to lose their sovereignty over their currencies. So how does that work out? Because these are national states which have got the freedom to rule over their own territories. So if it means losing your sovereignty, and I mean, it means also that other African countries have got to give their consent
before you
that
can make decisions.
that there's going to be a dominating country.
But one will actually argue with the point as well, Uguti, if you look at right now, it's always the thing that you don't want to travel Africa. But some people, I don't want to travel Africa because I don't know how much it will cost me. Because when you look at the exchange and everything, this might solve such issues that we're having. Uguti, if I go to Malawi, I don't even know Uguti, the exchange rate 18 ngalesos cut. Don't you think this is going to solve such things as well?
Yeah, most definitely. It definitely would do that. I mean, if you also look at the travel prices in Africa, I mean, it's more expensive to travel, let's say, from Malawi to Kenya or from Burkina Faso to Nigeria than it is to travel from here to Europe. So this kind of an agreement, a monetary union, would kind of cater for those kind of issues in the sense that we would have a single currency, and so there will be this kind of free movement. They call it the opening up of the skies, the opening up of the skies whereby air travel is kind of liberalized. So it would help, I suppose, in that sense, yeah.
It's scary that we think that because, most African countries don't even have that kind of infrastructure. But let's go to social media. At Gerard Thomas, the economy will not change until corruption perishes. Dr. Koch, is corruption keeping Africa back?
Yeah, I think if we look at most of the development economics literature, they point to basically three things: corruption, civil conflict, and just lack of sort of the rule of law. And these are all things that you take for granted in developed economies, right? There are problems here and there, but nothing nearly as serious as we see in Africa. And solving those problems, they're not easy problems to solve, and I don't surely have the answers. But if we can get some of those houses in order, we can make quite a difference.
Things will be okay. Let me come to you, my sister, as well. And what's your take out of the conversation that we're having? Or maybe we're just having a conversation. What is your take about this African currency? Do you think it will solve anything?
I think it will to
Matshidiso Malope.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yes. I think it will to like I said earlier on, I used to travel to Botswana, and then they were to it was difficult for me. Like everybody is saying, I don't know how much am I supposed to spend if I have to take extra money. And then the problem was with the cops. Passport mistakenly go bordering. And then they locked me inside and telling me I'm an illegal immigrant. I think if as Africans, it will combine together. We won't look at other African people as because you understand how like I'm South Africa, I'm better than a Zimbabwean. You understand? If one currency is going to build us as Africans, when I go to Botswana, they'll know I'm an African as them, not they are a better Africans. So I think it will reach us in that sense.
You know, Kini, it's quite interesting. If you look at most African economies, they've got parallel parking economies in the black market. Now, you have to start asking yourself, and some government dabble into those economies. Will there be some sort of agreement to get this one currency?
I think that's one thing as well, breaking, trying to find out exactly what is the solution moving forward, because we're saying, Dr. Steve, it can be done, but not sooner. Conversation yethu. Welcome back to Daily Thetha. Sakuruma about African currency and Uguti easy na Uguti and Zagala. It's just a good conversation. It's now on the white couch, but when it comes to implementation yakona, it's something else. And also Lapa Guzuguba Lula Njoko. What Tata Babakona Bakuruma and Dr. Steve as well, saying Guti na kama options this ngaba now. But is this easy as we think we do have Lawrence Dube, the younger version of Lawrence Dube, social political commentator, as well as Umatuma Letsoala, who's a political editor at American Guide. And guys, welcome to Daily Thetha. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Lawrence, let me start to you, my brother. It's a very good conversation. It's now Manje. President Cyril Ramaphosa last month was it can be done by 2021. Is that really possible?
Well, I think the first time I heard of the idea, and it's obviously a conversation that has happened, I kind of thought the only way to describe it is that it's romantic.
Sounds nice.
It sounds nice. It sounds fluffy. I think anyone would really want it. But in real practice, keeping the relationship so that you get to the romantic end of it is a long toll on its own. Well, and I see that from this perspective. Number one, Africa's politics is more complicated than any other politics. Africa is full of big men everywhere. They print money for elections. They literally want to run. The reserve banks literally run from political offices. So how in reality will they let go of that so that you have a reserve bank somewhere else that will run fiscal and monetary policy and then from there on probably be told that might happen that might have to be in South Africa. And perhaps what are Africans' perception of whichever country we choose to make sure that this currency comes from or the reserve is actually kept it. So I think there's a lot of skepticism around us as Africans. We just don't know much about each other, so much that I'm not sure we can trust each other with our money at the same time.
Right.
wow.
I mean, we've actually got a very interesting Facebook message coming in from Slindo Bridezondi. Are the economics and geopolitical structures of African countries would make one currency impossible to manage? Good example is the euro, which has faced a lot of challenges due to member states' economics and politics. I mean, Ntate Matuma, just from looking at face value, without the rest of us knowing what the government is saying, just looking even in our own country, is it possible? Politically, is it possible?
Look, I don't think that is something that can happen now. Nothing is impossible, but there are just a lot of interests. I mean, if you look at our own region, the SADC region,
Yes.
It could have been done, but you know, because of different interests, you're not going to see
From all the big
it
men.
happening,
Yeah, the
because I mean, in the West Africa, as you said, it failed. In the East Africa, they are talking about it. I mean, you would remember that Muammar Gaddafi, the former president of Libya, spoke about this thing long time ago. So look, if it was to happen, it will eliminate a lot of obstacles. Like we spoke about the free treaty, and it will open a lot of things. But as someone said, is it going to be easy for South Africa or for Zimbabwe to give away, you know, control for the monetary policy and stuff like that? It's not going to be as easy as it is, but leaders need to continue talking about it and looking at the positive side. I mean, at the positive side, why it needs to happen. I mean,
I hear you, but the question that I have, Lawrence, I'm going to ask you that. Ubani also benefit out of this? It's me, Nhleli, Elokshini, Mkukwini, or selected few will benefit on this African trade, African currency.
I think we've got to be clear that a currency is an economic issue.
Yes.
So it's about helping trade. It's about what you do with other countries. Let's be clear about that side. The social issues will remain. Xenophobia won't go away because we have the same currency. It's forget about it. That would be a myth. It's a blatant lie. Just because me and you met and you had the same currency, suddenly we like each other.
We don't even speak the same language.
We don't speak the same language. Two, it won't stop the fact that when you get to a border and you have a green passport and it comes from Zimbabwe, someone at Baitbridge will still be looking at their phone because they think you're not worth their time.
Yes.
It won't stop that. You know? So let's just be clear about conflating the two issues. So the beneficiary of this is economic players. And that's why umuntu osemlazi might not find it's beneficial for them. It won't matter. Whether I'm using the Afro, you know, as someone wanted it to be called, whether I'm using an Afro or a Rand when I go, if my country where I come from is playing better economics and it's a stronger currency, it still works for me. There are countries currently whose currencies work better for them when they do trade because they are already in a better economic position. Note South Africa, one of those countries. So everywhere they do trade, they have some sort of advantage. But when that changes, it becomes different. And I'll give you an example. In the past years, Zimbabwe had so many problems. They used multi-currencies.
Yes.
But if you go to Zimbabwe right now, they are leaning towards the US dollar. Why? Because the US dollar is more powerful than the Rand. Do you think Zimbabweans want to probably let go? There's a strong argument economically because the biggest trading partner is South Africa, but they might not want to. So the biggest beneficiaries for this whole arrangement is essentially economic players. It's also people who are doing trade with us in terms of other countries in Europe and other players. But for the ordinary man, the social dynamics, I'm not sure will change.
So what's the alternative?
Well, the alternatives are one, have your Afro or whatever currency you think could work. But people can keep their own currencies. I think the euro is exactly based on that.
Yeah.
For example, you give an example of Poland. Poland is part of the Eurozone, but it's keeping essentially their own.
Yeah.
Because if Poland tried to put the same interest rates as England, their economy will collapse.
Yes.
Which is the other factor you've got to think of. South Africans will not survive if we try to aggregate, the interest rates and then say, South Africans, your new interest rate is 25%, when you're paying only 11% for your current interest rate.
Yeah,
you absolutely wouldn't take it. And there must be a reason why South Africa hasn't signed that free trade agreement till now.
Matuma, do you agree with the Lawrence Zengamanch?
Yeah, no. I do. But as I was saying, I think that, I mean, even when they started talks about the euro, I mean, there was a lot of, countries were reluctant to enter. But, you know, we saw them one by one joining. Yes, there are still some challenges, but it did work. Yeah, so I think that, look, as Africans, we need to start looking at each other as one. I know that, outside, somewhere out there, people in the continent still think that South Africa, we think that we're better than them. And some of the reluctance might even come from there, to say you think that you are the big brother and stuff like that. But the resources that we have in this country, I mean, if you look at Nigeria, oil, South Africa, you know, the minerals. So you can imagine that currency will become perhaps the third biggest after euro. And the US dollar.
All right, we're going to go for a quick ad break. When we come back, now, what are, we've already spoken about some of the alternatives, but what is then the way forward? Because we've been having this conversation. I mean, it first started about in 1963, so we need to find a journey. That's what we need to find. Please do stay with us after the break.
Thetha namanje sakhuluma about the African currency. Ukuthi, is it something engenzakala by 2021? But abanye bethu bathi no. Let's look at the free trade qala before sibuke the currency. What is your take out of this? Because we're trying to find a solution. Njengamanje Thandokazi, what is your take about the African currency after discussion as Do you think it's possible? Is it something that you should be focusing on, or ziningi izinto ezibalulekile that we should be focusing on before Segyon?
Good morning, and thank you for having me, first of all. I'd like to say that this is going to pack a mean punch for corporate in particular, because once we do get this afro, how are the transactions that took place before the afro was put into place going to be affected? Number one. Number two, the afro comes along, but at what value, what fair value is this afro valued at? Number one, we are South Africans. There is the Malawian kwacha, where's the gentleman from Malawi, which is trading at about 60 kwacha at the rand, and now we can see already there's an irregularity, between those two countries. So now I think from shifting from different currencies to one currency, we are actually saying we are moving from a quality, the quality of the currency, to quantity. How are we then going to allocate that afro? Who deserves more? And also the volatility of it. Say now we are doing so well with this afro, and all of a sudden Boko Haram comes back again. I'm in South Africa. How is Boko Haram affecting me? That is the layman on the road. That's what they are thinking. How is Boko Haram affecting me? But at the end of the day, it's also going to pack a mean punch for them. So there's a lot of things that need to be considered before this happens. Of course, it's not going to happen over. Let's not sell each other dreams. Let's not build castles in the air. It's something that is going to take a very long time. But from the accounting perspective, the taxation perspective, the auditing perspective, fraud will be detected easily. There's easier trade. The bargaining power is now with suppliers. So and the accounting standards, of course, remain the same. So there's pros and cons, and let's roll with it.
Okay, cool. A quick one, let me go straight to you, Luzuko. I want to find out from you. Lawrence was mentioning something that the only people about the benefit out of this are role players in the industry, but when it comes to us on the ground, there's nothing much that's going to change to us. What's your comment out of that?
I think Lawrence has a very valid point, right? Because now in markets, there's like a lot of gatekeepers, right? It becomes like very difficult to actually tap into the markets. Let me just give you a rough example. Let's talk about the banking sector. The banking sector, there's like the four big players, right? So with regards to actually tapping into the market, you need like 750 billion rand worth of assets to actually qualify to establish a bank, right? So with that being said, people outside will be affected rapidly at a rapid rate. So the people within these markets are the ones that benefit most out of all this trade, right? Because it might be painted as as a picture saying that, okay, South Africa is doing well, knowing the fact that there's like 90% or 80% of people that are still living in shacks in South Africa, while the top 1% is in Cape Town and your Sea Point or whatsoever. So yeah.
I'm still hung up on what she said. She said that if you now have to give a fair value of if we get one currency, which means that low 5,000 lo mina ngimkholayo. If this currency gets changed, my 5,000 could tomorrow become a 2,000.
Hola 5,000.
Ngiyasho manje ukuthi izangitshintshela. Do you understand? I think that's what we need to get people to understand. There is that possibility.
Just on that, I think let's be clear. You won't get given some sort of, if your currency just changes, whatever you had in the bank and what you could afford in your own country might probably just remain the same.
Okay.
What affects the strength or the weakness of a currency is its financial contest against others.
Yes.
In terms of trade.
So how do I buy
movement.
from the US now?
Yeah, exactly. That's where it will change. But that will now be about you realizing that Africa as a whole would have then simply decided that all their economies must be looked at as one.
Yes.
And then that's what determines the value of this new currency.
Are we not
that's the
copying
risk that's the risk that you take for some countries. That's the benefit that some countries will also be benefiting from.
Are we
so
not
different
copying,
countries will then have different effects onto them.
Are we not copying? Are we not copying? Are we not doing what we do very well, copying other systems and other ways of doing things?
Maybe because we're seeing some benefit. Of course, and I must be clear, maybe I might sound as if I'm not too much for the idea. There is benefits. It absolutely is benefit. It helps the volatility element that you were talking about. Currency volatility in different areas. It will help with trade, ease of trade, because we're using the same currency. That means when I'm transacting with someone in Tanzania, we're speaking the same language in terms of how much it's going to cost us. But there must be other things that go with it, which is issues of your free movement, issues of your free trade. Because we could still exchange the money, but you still could be charging a higher price in your own home country, despite the same...
Because of the closed borders.
Thetha, in closing, as Musha, what does this say to you? Conversation nayo. In closing, what would you like to see?
I firstly would like to see two things, right? In the movement towards one currency, right? Because I agree with it. I would like to see, as a continent, us resolve our conflict, because that's the biggest detriment to our economies, right? The second thing is our politics, right? The politicians themselves need to stop using central banks as their personal pockets, right? Because that's the biggest problem. That's one of the biggest problems we have, that they inflate the economy because they need the money. This is not these are not their banks. These are our banks, and they should stop doing that. Yeah.
And then sokumfika lapho khona uhlelo kumele silugoqe sibonga kakhulu ekhaya ukuthi uzinikeze ithuba nje usifonele, as well as na social media as well, because we're going to be talking about indaba ebalekile ama-land grabs. But before sihambe nje Matuma, in closing, what is your comment out of this?
Yeah, no, look, what I can say is that it's Africa's time, and I'm sure with determination this can be done. But as he says, if you deal with the conflicts, corruption, and those interests that I was talking about, we will be able to do it.
So I think in conclusion, Africa, you are powerful. But Africa, you need to get your own and you need to do it correctly. The political issues are defeating. Open up the borders. Apply the visa. You
know, izinto kumele zenzeke kahle, and kusasa sikhuluma about land grabs ukuthi why enzakala and yini engenzakala ukuthi abantu bagcine ba-understand that is exploitation of land without compensation. As some say, siyabonga manje. Thank you.